Good afternoon, everyone. Today is the 17th of July. It's Monday. It's another educational webinar that we do. Today's session is a little bit about correlation and the importance that it is to have a look at the indices, and in this case, the currency indices, to then try to identify the best opportunities in the individual currency pairs. Like in the examples that we gave, it was about the yen pairs. All right. For the last 2 weeks or so, since basically the beginning of July, that we were expecting to see this move to the upside on the yen pairs, which then would mean dollar yen, euro yen, and so on to actually move to the downside. And after this strong move that occurred, which lasted a lot, like 5-6 bullish trending days, we were looking last week for a potential correction on the yen pairs. Like they were most likely super overextended to the upside. Like most likely, if you are looking at the RSI, it would show that it would be overbought at this point. And we started to look for a potential correction. So in this case, for a move to downside on the yen index, which would mean a move to the upside on the individual yen pairs. Again, euro yen, pound yen, Aussie yen, dollar yen, maybe CAD yen, like any yen pair in this case that we could try to find opportunities to go long. Again, yen index, it's inverted correlated with the individual yen pairs. If this goes up, the other ones goes down. If this goes down, the other ones go up. And the main point was then to try to, or the main point of this webinar is to actually being aware of this bigger picture, and they're looking at the yen index, then where actually are the good opportunities on the individual yen pairs. And the same way that you are talking about the yen pairs, we could be talking about the dollar index and any pair related to the dollar, or even any of the euro pairs when you're looking at euro index as well, and so on, right? That's where then the correlation works, and where you can take actually advantage of trying to find the best opportunities by understanding how the correlation between the different assets and between the different currencies they work. So, and what we mentioned is that, as we will see in a bit, when you start having this move to downside, and in this case on the yen index, it started, like if you pay attention to when actually this higher high occurred on the yen index, it was on the 12th of July, right? It was last Wednesday on the 12th of July. This is when we have, when it occurred, this top in here, right? So keep that in mind, 12th of July around 4 p.m. UK time. After that, we have another attempt somewhere on the 13th of July overnight, and then we have another sell opportunity on Friday, 14th of July, in this case around 2 p.m., which then kind of goes all the way until 5. And then we have another one today, this morning on the 17th, right? So basically we have the first one on the 12th of July. Then we have kind of a continuation, or the first move in here still on the 13th in the morning. And then we have 1 day later, another attempt. And then we have today another possibility of a move down in here. Again, all this is, it will be longs on the individual yen pairs. So what you are going to see is actually, and what we mentioned is that if you are about now to pick and select which of these yen pairs were the best ones to trade, or to take, or to start taking advantage of this move in here, we will notice that, for example, the dollar yen was not one of those. Like, why was not the dollar yen the best one to look for a sell in here? The reason for that is because, as we know, the dollar index last week, it was super bearish, right? It was literally breaking lows every single day. It printed 6 bearish candles in a row, right? So if by any chance on the 12th of July, which was Wednesday, which was in here, if you were looking for longs on dollar yen, which is what you were looking for longs on the individual yen pairs, it wouldn't be the best yen pair to select. Dollar yen, it was not one of those. Like, as you can see, even though it may have a little bit of a correction here, it was still, the dollar was still pushing down, pushing down, pushing down, pushing down, until eventually on the 14th of July, which was last Friday, we finally have a little bit of a correction to the upside on the yen pairs. And maybe in here on the 14th of July, it would finally be the moment to look for a long on the dollar yen, which this 14th of July would be the case to look for the sell when this happens. When you now have this retracement and in here on the test of these levels on the yen index, this will be the moment to finally look for opportunity to sell on the yen pairs, on the dollar yen in this case, right? 14th of July, this will be the move. For example, euro yen, Aussie yen, pound yen, they had good opportunities to start looking for longs on the yen pairs around this level. So they were the first ones to look for opportunity for longs. It was in here. So we can even name it. In here, it was on the 12th. So let me just increase this one here. We have 8 second. AJ. Right. These are the ones to look for a long in here. In here, we have EJ. In here, what was the end pair today? GG, which is CAD yen. Right? Any comments until now, guys? Do you try to think like this as well? Any comments?
Oh, no, it's a good advice. I normally just randomly look at the pairs without thinking about this, but yeah, it's a good insight. Consider.
It is, right? Because if you are actually looking for opportunities to look for this correction, 1 second. If you are looking for opportunities to look for this kind of correction from here, like we started to predict, we can see this this compression, this kind of phase 3 kind of a move, then you kind of have a phase 4 in here. And if you are starting to look for that sell on the yen index, and you start looking for the long on the dollar yen, you are actually going to have a loss, right? Or maybe just a small win, but the probability is that you're going to have a new loss in there, right? And this is where it's important to select and to pick the correct yen pair. If you got long in here, and if you just place your stop loss, in this case below the low, or in this case would be above the high, you have survived all the move, and you would have been, and you'll have a win. If you try to short, if you try to go long CAD yen on this day and now this day, maybe there is a small opportunity in there that you could take advantage of. However, the new low on CAD yen, it was still just created today, and now we had the good reaction on CAD yen, right? And again, how could you have predicted this? We literally can look at dollar yen, and you can see that the dollar index is literally crashing. It's just moving to the downside. There is absolutely no break of a high in dollar yen. There is no reversal on the dollar at this point, and you can see that the main point in this is the dollar is a dominant currency at this point. During all this move to downside, the dollar was dominant. And the reason for that, and the reason why euro yen, Aussie yen, and pound yen actually were moving to the upside is because exactly of the dollar. If the dollar was so strong, it was so negative, we had euro dollar, we had pound dollar, we have Aussie dollar, all of them moving to the upside. And as a consequence, they were actually managing to carry the currencies related to the yen. Like the yen pairs in this last week, they were not, like, it was not a movement based on what's going on the yen on Japan. It was not. It was just the kind of the extra currency pair that was just going with what the other forces were moving the market. Right? And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's literally the yen pairs. For example, the yen pairs for all this move in here, all this moving here, this was moved to the yen that was moving in here. Right? It was more forced of a yen move in here in this case. Right? Now you can jump into the individual currency pairs, right? And how can you also look for this, right? Then you can try to identify on the day also where actually are all these pairs reacting to on the left side, or are we even getting some kind of price action or trigger to actually take give us the confirmation that you want to look for the opportunity in these specific pairs. Then you can, again, we can correlate all the information that we get or natural triggers in order to try to look exactly for that information. Now let's look at the dollar yen, right? So again, this is what we have on dollar yen, and this is the 12, right? So on the 12, this is where we were, right? Basically on the 12, we had a little bit of CPI, right? CPI came out negative, and that's why you kind of have this strong move to downside. Again, dollar move to downside with the CPI. So if by any chance you're looking for that long opportunity on the 12, which was kind of a little bit around 4 p.m., right? We talked about 4 p.m. 4 p.m. it will be in here, right? So even if you're looking for a long in here, you can see that there was not much of a move. We even got this faked out in here. Then price tried a little bit, but it still created the new low, right? So if you're looking for any longs in here on the 12 and then on the 13, on the beginning of the 13, as I mentioned, right? We talked about this one. So this is 12, 13 in the morning, and then a full 1 day later on the 14. So if you're looking for that long on dollar yen, most likely it was not a good idea. You would have got a loss in there, right? So that's basically what we can see in here. So this was not the moment. And then finally on the 14 in here, when price finally will test this level, we even have the confirmation in here as well on dollar yen, like this, the yen index is actually giving us the confirmation that still wants to move down. We kind of broke a little bit of the structure. We are within this compression now. So there's a high probability that even the move within this yen index is actually telling us that price wants to go down. Meanwhile, we had this big retracement until there, and that's kind of the opportunity now that you can look for also the opportunity on the dollar yen to look for a trade. Maybe you could have this kind of a trend line in here in order to give you the confirmation when price was about finally to turn or not, and also maybe where price was reacting in here on the left side to give you that clue, right? But again, we start breaking finally some highs. We have that zone 4, that first move to downside to then turn, and that's where kind of you could have looked for the opportunity. And then this morning, all right, this morning with this retest in here, again, that beautiful level, it's exactly kind of the Quasimodo now that second zone move, this second zone move that we usually look for after zone 1. Today it was created the second zone, fake out of this low, as you know, and you have the second zone move, and maybe price now can rally, maybe can even retrace a bit more, and then move to the upside, like the typical Quasimodo pattern as well that we look for in here, right? And this was the opportunity from today's session that you could have had opportunity to look for a long in here, right? So this is the end pairs, right? On the 12, not the right moment, incorrect. On the 14, we finally create the Wurlo, and today we could have the second zone move to look for the continuation in here, right? Everyone agree?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. And again, we can even keep using the information that we get from the dollar as well in order to help us exactly to look for that correction in here, to actually wait a little bit for that confirmation. Maybe wait for this. You can see like on the 14th of July, last Friday, maybe finally the dollar index finally broke this trend line to the upside, and maybe starts giving information that's about to finally retrace or turn a little bit. So you can start using even this information from the dollar to start thinking about, okay, maybe finally we can start expecting some retracement on the dollar index, which if I'm still looking for a potential move to downside on the yen index, right? I'm still looking for a potential retracing here and move to downside. Now maybe it's the opportunity for me to look at the dollar yen and actually look for that long opportunity in here. Like again, maybe some break of trend line, whatever it may be, and there you go. Right, so this is first one. Now let's take a look at the other ones that I mentioned. I can even starting with the Aussie yen. Right, now it's Aussie yen, Euro yen, and pound yen. Right, so what we have in here, right, during the CPI, Aussie yen, where is it reacting? Like what we mentioned before, right? Starting to pay attention to where actually price is about to react on the left. Really good level. We feel the compression. We finally reach a target, and we are retesting from this important level, which was really close to previous level support resistance. And we have this structure, which is a beautiful demand zone, right? So we have that, and there you go on the 12th. The Aussie yen was actually the first one on the 12 with the CPI that actually offered this opportunity to move to the upside. Right. So just as a comparison, if you look for that long on the yen pairs, if you take this trade on the Aussie yen, it's perfect. If you look for that long on the dollar yen, it's not perfect. Right. First example, going all the way to the upside in here, and then it had the second continuation on the 13th. So this is 12, this is 13 in the morning, and you have the continuation to look for that setup, right? This is just to see the difference between what kind of opportunities you could have tried to take advantage by looking in here. And then what we still have on the 14th, when finally dollar yen, you see, and this is where it continues. Now that you are looking at the dollar yen, thank you, Pablo. Now, if you are, imagine that we are on Friday. So on Friday, Aussie yen had already made out this move, correct? And if you are still thinking about getting long or looking for longs on the yen pairs, what do you think? Maybe at this point, it wouldn't be the best scenario to look for a long on the Aussie yen, because Aussie yen had already made out this move. Maybe now it will be the time to maybe look for that opportunity on the dollar yen, because maybe there is more room to go through, right? There's maybe more space for the dollar yen actually move into the direction that actually you want to look for. And in this case, the Aussie yen had already made basically out that move and is reacting now from these highs in here, right? Basically reach your target at this point. In today's session, again, really good reaction. You could have maybe looked for this potential opportunity target, maybe just retest of these highs. Right? Again, it's just to see the different dynamics and opportunities that you can get by looking at these individual currency pairs, even everything just related to the yen. Moving on, Euro yen, right? There you go. Euro yen on the 12th, again, opportunity, good reaction from this level. If we reach the target that you've been looking for a couple of weeks so far, which was below this low. So we reached that target for the shorts. Now it's maybe time to start looking for a long, and that was the zone somewhere in there. Again, pattern, right? Combination of lows, break to lows, fake out, go higher, start breaking highs. You can even maybe draw some kind of trend line in here, and you can have that trigger as well to give you the confirmation that it's about to turn. And there you go, right? On the 12th, you can look again for this long opportunity. So Euro yen, great timing to look for opportunity around the 12th of July in here as well. And you have prices telling you, price is starting to show you some clues that it's about to turn and it's reacting from a good level in there. And then you have the next one, it was maybe on the 13th, the price was still kind of around here on the 13th, and then on the 14th, we have also a little bit of this move. But even the move on the Euro yen in here, it was still smaller than the move on the Aussie yen. The Aussie yen had made a bigger move in here than the Euro yen at this point. So even if you still want to go long or around that level, you start looking for longs in here, maybe this move in here on the 14th, it was the second zone, second day move, kind of that you call it, like from the webinars that we did on the Euro yen, it was around that, and now we had finally the move to the upside. And today it was another continuation setup, right? But it's already kind of we have one low, we have another one, and kind of another one. If this is kind of just continuation in the momentum of where we are going to, right? Then pound yen, right? Again, similar, like 12, 13, stayed a little bit more in here, and finally start moving to the upside, and we start having that kind of a move in there. Like 12 and then 14 in here as well. Maybe it could have been a good opportunity to look for a long as well on the 14. So at this point, maybe 14, it would have been better to look for longs on dollar yen, maybe Euro yen and pound yen as a potential move. There's a good retracement It's a good level in here as well. Maybe could have been a good opportunity to look for, or even today's session as well. We had a deep retest almost to this level again, and it could have been a good long opportunity again, since we actually managed to break these highs, maybe giving information that you want to go actually higher from where we are right now. Like, so this opened the door maybe to go higher after the retest in here. Right. So again, good opportunities. Again, reading out what price is doing. And again, you can just even have in attention and focus what the yen index is doing. And even maybe the last one now, in terms of the yen pairs, as you can see, it was CAD yen. Right, CAD yen may have offered some good opportunities to look for longs. For example, on the 14, it was good, but as you could see, CAD dollar, the CAD pairs had made a really strong move last Friday. That's why it kind of had this big correction. Like if you look at the pound CAD, at the euro CAD, at the dollar CAD, like all of them made a really big move to the upside, which kind of forced this one actually to move to the downside. Right, so it was a strong, it was a negative CAD, which was in here, since CAD is the first currency, this is actually pushing price downside. And if we pay attention to, you can see that this is the demand zone. Pricing here just for calculables, but this is the demand zone actually that we are actually waiting for price now from here, maybe going to the upside and maybe now moving in here. And that's why today, maybe if you are looking for any of the yen pairs to move to the upside, maybe could have been the one that finally created the water low, and maybe price is ready to make a bigger correction. Of course, we still need to break this high again. Right. So again, what you can also understand is exactly this. Maybe you are still actually thinking about that the yen index is about to make this correction to the downside, kind of this move. And it's about trying to pay attention to maybe which yen pairs is still lagging, like which one is reading, which the yen pairs that were reading, those were the first ones to try to take advantage of in the first instance. And then you can start paying attention to which ones are lagging, and is there any good opportunities to maybe try to rejoin the move, because maybe now I can still take advantage of that, of those, of the yen pair that is lagging, for me to take advantage still if I'm thinking that the yen index is about to make all that big move to the downside. In this case, it will be the CAD yen, really nice reaction from that level, and that's kind of what we could look for in here. Like again, typical, start breaking highs finally, and there you go, combination of lows, zone 4 created in here, and now maybe we're going to have some kind of zone 2 to push it like this. We need to break this side first. Right. But again, it's another pair that is super overextended to the downside. Many days already moving down, as you can see in here. So it was kind of due to a good correction, and this level is actually really good where price reacted from this morning on the CAD yen. Any questions, guys? Any comments?
All good, man.
Yeah, Robert, Jennifer,
Yeah, it was good.
You just try to, like, one thing is to use it's kind of almost the same concept of using indicators on the chart. Like when you use indicators on the chart, you are trying to find some kind of edge, right? Try to find maybe if it is overextended, if it is not overextended, and so on, right? And by using correlation, however, when you are using indicators, for example, RSIs or moving averages, they are lagging indicators. Like when finally you may get your trigger, or when price finally crosses your moving average, meanwhile price had already made a certain amount of a move in order to cross that. Like, so you're already missing quite a big piece of movement from the trend. When you're using correlations, it's a way that can be seen as an indicator, but it's a leading indicator, because we are starting to collect information even before price actually turns, and it's a way to actually be on top of the movement as it's turning. Like it's a way for us to start taking advantage, and try then to look at the individual assets to try to see which one actually is still offering us the best opportunity in that specific moment. Like that's why correlation is so important. Start combining a little bit as well. Which one is actually moving the market, or which one it isn't in that moment. Like sometimes, just as easy as that, you can see what's going to be the biggest news for this week. Like last week, the CPI was definitely a big catalyst. Like that's why it was mainly for the dollar, especially by being such a positive number in the CPI. Right, it completely made a full move related to the dollar, and that's why we saw so much big movement and so much alignment in the dollar pairs. Right, sometimes it's going to be the euro, sometimes it's going to be the yen, sometimes it's going to be maybe the pound, right? Whatever it may be. And you need to, it's important to try to understand that and which ones actually you can start looking for those opportunities. Yeah, and then it goes into trying to find out your own triggers of execution. Like which one is actually maybe offering you the best opportunity. Just go across. This is why sometimes it's good to have one or two or three, like at least 2 or 3 pairs of the same currency, because now you can try to find which one is the best opportunity. I think, Robert, you mentioned that you were just more focused on the dollar yen. And if that was the case, and if you're looking for any reversals on Monday or past Wednesday, it wouldn't have been the best scenario, right? But if you had euro yen or pound yen in your charts, in your watch list, maybe now those were actually winning trades. If you're actually looking for the reversal, right? In that sense. Yeah. This work can be done over the weekend when you're doing your higher time frame analysis in order to try to see where are made with the best opportunities and which ones to try to take advantage of. For example, for today move on the CAD, this correction here, maybe it was a little bit expected by looking at the pound CAD, how overextended it was and reacting from here. Maybe we are expecting some reaction on the CAD pairs. Euro CAD as well. It was a really strong move to the upside. It's reacting from kind of a good level in here structure, right? After making out this moving here, really strong move last Friday. Maybe are expecting some kind of correction until this level, at least maybe in here, right? So okay, maybe actually the pound CAD can offer a great opportunity actually to look for a long setup in there as well. Yeah. Yeah, nothing much to say, guys. It's literally just to challenge you to start paying attention a little bit for of these opportunities and why it's so important and why do we spend so much time analyzing dollar index, yen index, and euro index, for example. It's because exactly like that, because we want to try to find then which ones of those currencies are moving the market, and then individually which of those currency pairs we should be looking for the best opportunity to take advantage of those assets or currencies that are actually leading and whatnot. Yeah, this will increase your winning percentage. This will help you to be more in the right direction of the market and try to find the best opportunities, the ones that actually going to, by being part of that move, that price is actually going to move in your direction. Yeah. Any final comments?
All good.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.